Welcome back to my channel Psychology Point, and today I'm going to start chapter 4 Psychological Disorders. And in this video I'm going to cover the introduction, concept of abnormalities and psychological disorders, historical background, classification of psychological disorders, and factors underlying abnormalities. So stay tuned, this video is going to be long. So those aiming for 100% marks in psychology should not leave even one line of NCERT, be it the introduction or anything. So let's see what is mentioned in the introduction to this chapter. In this chapter, first thing that is mentioned is that all of us are prone to stress, which we have done last time in the previous chapter. And most of us are able to cope up. Now, those who are not able to cope up, they indulge in extreme behavior, and that is only called abnormality. Apart from this, in the first introductory part, Jung has talked about the shadow concept, that is, we all possess the darker side of our personality also. We are not perfect human beings. So this is what, and when there is a conflict between what we expect to be and what we are, this leads to abnormality. Then the branch of psychology which talks about abnormal behavior, its causes and treatment is called abnormal psychology. And what is maladaptation means when we are not able to adjust according to the environmental demands, then our behavior becomes maladaptive. And this is shaped by our cultural experiences also. So now let us start with the meaning of abnormality. What is abnormality? If we talk about what is abnormal, that is something which is away from normal is abnormal. And if I talk about the perfect definition of abnormality, then there is no perfect definition of abnormality. But any behavior which is characterized by 4 Ds is said to be abnormal. So now let us try to understand what are 4 Ds of abnormality. First is deviance, that is, if the behavior is different, extreme, unusual, or even bizarre. For example, right now, instead of teaching you, since it is an educational channel, and I start dancing, so I am deviating from the rules of the educational channel, so it could be considered as abnormal. Explain you what is the second D, that is distress. Distress means something which is unpleasant, upsetting to the person and to others. For example, some person is there who is not able to overcome his loss and is always depressed and is always filled with negativity. Now, negative emotions or even all emotions are contagious. Now, that is upsetting, his situation is upsetting him also and the people around him also. So that type of behavior which is distressing is abnormal. Now let me talk about dysfunction. Dysfunction is interfering with person's ability to carry out daily activities in a constructive way. For example, there is a student in the class who is so anxious that he is suffering from some social anxiety and he avoids all the group projects. Then what will happen? His result is going to be affected. His daily activities are going to be affected. So it is preventing him, his social anxiety is preventing him to behave in a constructive manner. So it is abnormal. Next is danger to the person and to others. Sometimes a person who is disturbed might start throwing things on others or might be harming himself. So this abnormal behavior is dangerous also. I hope all 4 Ds are very clear to you, and this comes in your NCERT. The weightage of this chapter is also more than the previous chapter. So, and it's very important chapter from the point of view of board examination. Let us start to approaches to abnormality, although both the approaches are conflicting and also there is no exact approach which can explain us abnormality thoroughly. Anyhow, so let's see what is the first approach in your NCERT talking about. That is deviation from social norms. If your behavior is deviating from social norm, it is considered to be as abnormal. But then norms, these unspoken rules, they vary from culture to culture. That means what is accepted by one culture is not accepted by the other culture. So in one culture, the same behavior is normal, and in the other culture, the same behavior is abnormal. So what type of criteria is this? Let's take an example. Maybe some culture is promoting, say, competitiveness in children. So that culture might accept aggressiveness in children, whereas the culture which is only fostering cooperation and family values will be rejecting and will be considering aggressive behavior as abnormal. Okay, so there is, and then this is also affected by the developments which takes place from time to time. Something which was not acceptable before is acceptable today. For example, the girls were not allowed to wear jeans, say 50 years from now. Now it is accepted. So how can we consider that as abnormal? So anyhow, then next this group of psychologists, they came up with this key. This is not the criteria. This deviation from social norms is not the correct criteria for explaining abnormality. A behavior would be considered abnormal if it is maladaptive. That is, the individual is, if the behavior is contributing to the well-being of the individual, then it is normal. That this question comes in your exam. What is the meaning of well-being? It is not simply the maintenance and survival, but also include growth and fulfillment. And Maslow has talked about the self-actualization of the potential, the highest need, which should be fulfilled. Now, okay, if we consider well-being as the criteria for the abnormality, then that means the conforming behavior is considered to be the normal. If the behavior is conforming, then it is, fostering well-being and is considered as normal. But then what about the child who is conforming conforming his behavior to the norms, that he is not uh, asking the questions? Even if he has a doubt in his mind, he is keeping mum. Ask the people around you what is abnormality. They themselves have lots of confusion and stigma around this term abnormality. Our people, they feel ashamed to talk about the problems, psychological problems, and they feel hesitant to consult the doctor or psychologist. Okay, so now let us start discussing the historical background of psychological disorders so that we can understand how this has evolved. In ancient time, the people used to consider that there is some supernatural or magical forces behind these problems. And these problems were cured by exorcism performed by shamans and ojas, that is through jhad phuk or mantras. You must be remembering, you must have seen some of the movies in which you must have seen how they say ki some evil spirit has entered in the body and the person oja is trying to remove. So it started from there, and after this came a biological approach which talks about that this type of illness originates in the body or brain, and the weapons that were used were some medication or surgery of the brain to treat them. Then, with the passage of time, the psychological approach or organismic approach to the mental illness evolved. And according to this approach, mental illness was the main cause of mental illness was the problem in our thinking, feeling, or perception. It originated with the Greek theories of humor, blood, phlegm, yellow, and black bile. While explaining this in chapter 2, when I was discussing the Hippocrates classification of personality into sanguine, phlegmatic, and choleric, I had explained to you what are these humors. You can go back to that video and watch again. Then during the Middle Age, demonology, started again. Mental illness was considered to be the manifestation of some evil or demonic possessions. And also you have the references of witches, chudel, isn't it? But then again, Augustine's writing talks about that this was the result of some mental pain or inner conflict. And then during the Renaissance period, this John Ware challenged demonology and argued and accused witches were mentally disturbed and not evil. This shift brought about a change in recognizing human distress and not punishment. Then, with the passage of time, during the age of reason and enlightenment, rise of scientific methods in the medicine started, and emergence of moral treatment as well as asylums or the mental institutions started coming up, and the treatment was done there in the mental asylums. And the modern biopsychosocial interactional approach to study these abnormalities, which leads to today's comprehensive understanding and treatments. Classification of psychological disorder. Now let me tell you what is classification, that what we are going to classify psychological disorders. There are various psychological issues which have more or less the same symptoms. Now they are grouped together. Now what purpose it will solve? It will help the various mental health professionals like psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers to talk about these disorders in an organized way with each other, as well as it will help them in diagnosis and also prepare the plan for the treatment and research purposes. Now let us try to understand it with one example of the physical diseases. For example, you visit a doctor, an MBBS doctor who is not a specialist in any field. You visit him and you were just having some infection in the stomach. Now he got some tests done and he found that the problem is little more complex and it is should be shown to should be shown to some gastrointestinal specialist. Now he will write something. He is going to prepare the prescription, and that prescription will be understood by the gastrointestinal specialist on the basis of the symptoms. Now he has seen the symptoms and he has seen the symptoms, so it would be clear that yes, the problem is in the intestine. So this way, now for this physical psychological disorders, there are two systems of classification. One is done by American Association of Psychological Disorders, that is APA, which has developed a system called DSM, and the latest version of DSM which is available is 5. DSM-5, that means Diagnostic Statistical Manual. And India follows ICD-10, that is International Classification of Diseases, and the version of that which is revised version which is available today is 11 also. On this slide also I have written 10 only. In your books also right now you are getting ICD-10 only. Now this helps for both data and insurance coding. Officially it is being used in India for mental health disorders. And this is developed by WHO. Okay, so now let me talk about the approaches to understand abnormal behavior, or also it could be the factors underlying abnormal behavior, or even the causes of abnormal behavior. So the cause of abnormality is the interaction of biological, psychological, or social factors. So first of all, let me discuss the biological factors. Now, biological factors are also classified as faulty genes. Faulty genes, you understand, if there is some problem in the genes, then there would be abnormality in the child. And if you know about the chromosomal aberrations, that is when otherwise the individual inherits 23 pairs of chromosome from each parent, but sometime due to certain abnormalities, he or she, the individual, is only taking 21 pairs during the time of mating. If this occurs, then the person is subjected to various abnormalities including Down syndrome. So biology students can understand this better. And next is endocrinal imbalance. Endocrinal imbalance, you know, if the hormones secretion is not proper in our bloodstream, then we are more susceptible to various physical and psychological issues. Then malnutrition, diet plays an important role, and everything mental and physical go hand in hand. Then injuries, if the mother, pregnant lady, is exposed to any injury during the time of delivery, during the time of pregnancy, or during the time of say delivery, or afterwards, if the child is exposed to any problem, then it is quite possible that he or she may develop some psychological issues also. Apart from this, neurotransmitters, you know, sometime the messages, there is the problem in the transmission of the messages from one neuron to another. This also causes abnormalities in the individuals. For example, if there are some neurotransmitters mentioned in your NCERT, one is GABA. if its secretion, if it's the chemical that is released is not released in proper quantity, then the low activity of GABA causes anxiety, and low activity of serotonin causes depression, and excess activity of dopamine causes schizophrenia. Okay, so this is all about biological factors. Let us see some psychological factors which can cause abnormality. The first one is maternal deprivation. Yes, it is very, very important factor which cause abnormality in children if they are deprived from their mother just after the birth. Reason could be n number of it, but then this also causes abnormality. Apart from this, faulty parent-child relationship, or over criticizing parent also, as well as the parent among themselves, their relation is not good, then this also creates various psychological issues in the children. And maladaptive family structure means like family is broken, maybe divorced, or any sort of problem in the family structure can also lead to psychological issues in the children. Now we talk about various psychological models or different approaches which also explains abnormality. First is psychodynamic. According to this, psychological distress occurs due to unconscious mental conflicts, means the conflicts which we are not aware of, which occur. The root cause of the problem, according to Sigmund Freud, the father of psychodynamic model, lies in the child's unconscious. He represses everything, the desires which are repressed by him, that cause psychological problems. Apart from this, you have behavioral psychologists who are talking about that the child's abnormality or the reason of any psychological distress is faulty learning, and that is curable, means we can make that whatever the child has learned, that can be unlearned also. Then cognitive model talks about the reason of psychological distress as irrational assumptions about oneself. That is, we think it negative about ourselves. That leads to various psychological problems. And next is humanistic existential psychologists. You must be remembering all of these schools you have covered in class 11. So that is your Maslow's and Rogers. They say that if the person avoids responsibility, that is also one of the cause of psychological disorders. And apart from this, if I talk about sociocultural approaches, then over involvement as well as neglect of the family members is responsible for psychological disorders. So I think I had covered all the important points, but if you have any problem in any point, please write in the comment section and I will surely give you the answer for it. Okay, so till the next video, happy learning.